Welcome to Engineering Everyday Equity. I'm Anthony D. Mays, software engineer on the data visualization team here at Google.
Oh boy, it's Anthony Mays, my favorite Mays, next to Billy.
Hi, Billy Mays here for Mighty Putty.
Now, I have been waiting with bated breath for the next chapter in this video series. The first one was so incredibly nonsensical, I can only imagine what we are in for this time.
In this series, we discuss practical ways in which we can build equity, diversity, and inclusion into the product design process.
Yes, practical ways to introduce equity, diversity, and inclusion into your designs. And that is precisely what you accomplished with your last video, wasn't it? Well, we'll get to that soon enough.
And in this episode specifically, we're going to talk about the understanding phase. And so I would love to introduce to you Livy, who's going to help us talk through what the understand phase is and how we can use some practical tips to really understand what the problem is.
The understanding phase. Excellent. Understanding things is one of the primary reasons I watch and critique videos on YouTube. So I am ready to be educated. What do I need to understand about understanding?
Thanks, Livy, for being here with us today.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
One of the things that I find sort of difficult to understand is how I can better get stakeholders involved in the design process. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you mean. That can definitely be a challenge because we're really trying to balance, let's push out new features, but let's also take the resources to have diversity and inclusion and make things accessible. I'm an accessibility champion on my team.
An accessibility champion. I have absolutely no idea what that means. I do hope they help me to understand.
And I'm lucky to have other people who also value diversity, inclusion, and accessibility on the team as well. And together, I think we mostly serve to remind the executive stakeholders and people about the importance of having this as a value.
Wait a second. You and your team mostly serve to remind executives about the value of diversity. So, you and your team don't mostly serve by doing your jobs? You fulfill the same function as tying a string on your finger? Got it?
And beyond that, I was born and raised in the Pacific Northwest. I'm Asian. I'm the child of immigrant parents, and I also identify as queer and non-binary.
And all of that says what about your ability to do your job? Unless your job isn't about ability so much as it is about visibility, since you mostly serve as a reminder. Am I understanding that correctly?
I think it's amazing how diverse my team is. We have people who are different ages, who have different work experiences, different backgrounds, race, gender, and even different working styles. And I think everyone brings something different to the table, and it's really great that it's a safe place for people who have different perspectives to be able to share their ideas.
You've just described nearly every working environment on the planet. Because everyone, in one degree or another, is of a different age, or work experience, or perspective, etc. Everyone is different, even if they have a similar skin tone, or genitals, or sexual impulses, etc. So, basically, Google is nothing special when it comes to the makeup of teams, regardless of having diversity as an outspoken value. Got it.
I also feel like I've learned a lot from being an accessibility champion in terms of just being more cognizant of people with different abilities. But It's really about being able to see my work through someone else's eyes.
Seeing your work through someone else's eyes. So, you mean getting feedback from your teammates? Well, again, short of operating your team as a dictatorship, that's nothing special in most work environments. Tell me again how any of this lends itself towards engineering everyday equity.
Well, yeah, I really appreciate you saying that, seeing your work through other people's eyes, because as someone who is a Black man who's come from Compton and who's also Christian, I really think it's important that people in tech understand the unique background from which I come, and for other people that I know and have met in this industry who are different and don't fit the traditional background.
So, wait. The center of the product development universe needs to be Black Christian males from Compton? But what about queer, non-binary Asians from the Pacific Northwest? How can you hope to make products with a broad appeal if you're going to be trying to factor in such minutely specific, niche attributes of your desired user base? You know, this understanding phase isn't helping me to understand.
And so I can really appreciate that it's difficult to think about empathy and to really practice that. It can be challenging at times.
Ah, practicing empathy, aka agreeing with whatever my viewpoint is, otherwise you lack empathy. Yes, I have examined the nefarious nature of the empathy argument before. Glad to see it remains alive and well at Google.
So in terms of talking about these ideas, I want to bring this home to a hypothetical app that I have called Scholar. And it's a hypothetical app right now, but the more I talk about it, the more I think I should, spend some 20% time and try to get it done.
Ooh, Scholar. I assume this is going to be the same hypothetical app from the previous episode. Now, just to remind ourselves, what was the original unaltered challenge statement for that app again?
In 2018, I want to build an app that connects college students with colleges and demystifies the application process.
Man, given how that idea was transformed last time, I cannot wait to see what dazzling improvements are made to it this time.
But before we do that, let's talk about the ABCs of inclusive product design. The ABCs of inclusive product design are: A, address diverse needs of current and future users.
Diverse needs of current and future users. Okay, well, I guess it all depends on the product, its function, and its utility. I mean, nothing can please all of the people all of the time, right?
Right.
But sure, you are planning on being able to scale your product's user base over time. Got it.
Though you may have a target user, who else could possibly be using your app? From what country do they hail from? What kind of educational background do they have, or access to technology?
Yeah. Those are a lot of contingencies to try to design around. I'll grant you that. But I'm not so sure how reasonable a goal it is.
B, build for everyone, with everyone.
For everyone, with everyone. Ahem. You cannot please all of the people all of the time. Does Google not understand that truism? Or are they looking past it and assuming that they know other people's lived experiences?
In addressing those diverse user needs, does your team reflect some of that diversity? If your team is not diverse, you are bound to have blind spots.
Well, it all depends on your definition of diverse. And you did address that in your last video. But there is an important distinction between having people on your team who simply reflect your user base and having people on your team who possess a working knowledge of the product's use and or the target audience. These are generally called subject matter experts, who can guide and advise developers and engineers on specific aspects of a product and its intended market. But I do remain curious. If there is a black Christian male from Compton on the team, does he then know how all black Christian men from Compton think? Is that what I am to understand?
C. Continuously test and improve. Through iteration and debugging, you may find your product is not as inclusive as you had originally thought. Did it somehow not consider men and women and the spectrum of gender identities? Does it exclude people from different locations, beliefs, or backgrounds? In various ways, we'll be returning to these concepts.
Does your product exclude people? Well now, what was that modification to your original challenge statement that your previous expert made for you?
That's a really good start. How about let's take it further and say something like, in 2018, we want to launch an app that matches colleges and demystifies the college search process for first-generation students.
Sure.
Going from college students to only first-generation college students. Now, tell me, was that change going to result in the inclusion or exclusion of potential users?
I want to talk a little bit about this app that I want to build. So again, the app is called Scholar, and it's designed to connect high school students who are graduating with schools and scholarships.
Sorry. Schools and scholarships?
In 2018, I want to build an app that connects college students with colleges and demystifies the application process.
So now we're matching students with colleges and matching them with scholarships. I hope you're aware that those are two entirely different processes. I think you may have already bitten off more than you can chew with this single app.
And so it's sort of designed like a dating app for students that can help them connect with the institutions of their choice and understand more about what scholarship opportunities are available. In the previous discussion that I had with Leah, we talked about some practical tips for baking in diversity and inclusion into the design sprint process.
Yes, baking in diversity and inclusion by casting off millions of potential users with an exclusionary mindset.
In 2018, we want to launch an app that matches colleges and demystifies the college search process for first-generation students.
Sure. And so now we want to talk about, or I'd like to talk about, understanding the problem. Are there some practical tips that you can give me in that area?
So the first part of the sprint, this understand phase, where we really get into the heads of the users and together try to gain an understanding of who our users are and how we can make this product for them. We listen to lightning talks, and lightning talks are essentially where we are hearing different perspectives of how this app might be used and getting a better understanding of the product.
Lightning talks. You know, the way you describe those, it sounds a lot like brainstorming.
So the note-taking process of this is we're going to be taking sticky notes, and we have blank sticky notes where we write HMW on the top. And HMW stands for how might we? And this is how we can start reframing pain points of our users and turn them into opportunities.
Sticky notes. How might we? Got it.
Oh, that's excellent. That's a great idea. Matter of fact, as it turns out, got some HMWs already ready to go.
Oh, awesome. Let's take a look.
Golly, it's almost like this whole thing was pre-planned and entirely not spontaneous, or something.
So, all right, so here are a few that I have. How might we demystify the college application process? Also, how can we make it easier for high school counselors to connect with their students? And then I also wanted to know about how we might help colleges reach students beyond just looking at their SAT scores or their GPA.
Awesome. This looks like a really good start to some How Might We's. Is it okay if I make some suggestions?
Why else would you be here?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So here you have how might we make it easier on high school counselors. Well, I was recently reading an article about how it can really help students to start the conversation about college earlier, maybe even middle school. It can really turn, well, are you going to college into where are you going to college? Make it more of a sure thing. So what if we expanded the audience to younger ages as well?
So, you have an app meant to connect high school students to colleges and demystify the application process. But to as well help high school counselors, you want to lower the target user age. How does it help high school counselors for your app to target, I don't know, junior high kids? And doesn't the intended purpose of the app itself effectively reduce the need for high school counselors to advise on college admissions in the first place? I'm confused.
No, I really like that. Matter of fact, I've got sticky notes and marker right here.
And maybe another suggestion could be for another how might we? How might we start the conversation on financial aid and merit-based scholarship? As a general piece of advice, I would say that you want to think of a diverse group when we're thinking about how might we's and call out if someone thinks that a how might we might be relevant to too narrow a group or might be too homogenous.
Well, how about how might we help high school students? Full stop. You know, high school students. All high school students. I mean, you can't get much more diverse than that, as you're not applying any other special filters. And you know, for the most varied user base, you need to consider the lowest common denominators to potentially serve the largest number of people. Or am I not understanding something?
So you're saying that I should think about how to stretch it out to a larger group?
Yeah.
A larger group? What? I mean, our previous expert said to only focus on first-generation college students. Okay, either you are confusing yourself, or you're completely rejecting the advice of your previous expert. I wonder which one it is.
So next, shifting gears a little bit, we're going to talk about criteria for success. I would say when making your criteria for success, go ahead and set some inclusive criteria. So have you thought about any of that?
Yeah, no, of course. I want to change the world, so there's that.
Well, that is a very admirable goal. Now, are you even going to mention the sage, inclusive advice that you were given last time?
But here's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking that 30% of my new users should be first-generation college students. In the challenge statement that I talked about with Leah earlier, we talked about how it would be great to build an app in 2018 that connects high school students with the colleges and scholarships that they need, and to specifically focus on first-generation college students. So I'd love to see 30% of my new user base be first-generation college students.
30% of your user base. But your revised challenge statement only allowed for first-generation college students.
In 2018, we want to launch an app that matches colleges and demystifies the college search process for first-generation students.
Sure.
So, under that theory, any other kind of college student didn't matter. But now you just want to target them as about 1/3 of your user base. Well, oddly enough, according to the National Center for Education Statistics, 30% of all entering freshmen are first-generation college students to begin with. So, if you just targeted all incoming college students without any special filters, on average, you would get your 30% first-generation demographic. Golly, it kind of makes all of this fretting over diversity and inclusion seem rather pointless, doesn't it?
I think it'd also be great piling on top of that, having an additional 10% of new users, say, who are outside of the normal, college age of 16 to 18.
Yeah, I'm liking how we're expanding and diversifying the user base right here.
Wait, what? Okay, the original target user base for this app was high school students. And your first idea to increase diversity was to lower that target age. But now you also want to raise the target age above high school students. So the brilliant ideas to expand the user base for a college applications app to help high school students is to make the age of the user an effective irrelevancy. So you want to set your target age demographic as those ranging from 13 to 99. Got it.
I also see that you have a how might we help people with disabilities, and just in general, making sure that college admissions process is more inclusive. So I would say maybe we could think about some criteria in terms of making sure we give specific call-outs to colleges that have good diversity ratings or strong student life for underrepresented minorities.
Ah, so your app will give preferential attention to colleges that meet your preferred diversity value system. Huh. Is that design philosophy going to end up including or excluding some colleges from a potential user's search results? I wonder.
Oh, okay, yeah. So I see what you're saying. You're saying that I can also use this app to incentivize institutions that focus on diversity and inclusiveness and sort of give them a pat on the back to help encourage them to do it more.
Yeah, for sure.
Well, now, that is thinking mightily high of your theoretical app. Your college-centric Match.com is going to become so influential and so vital that colleges will be incentivized to adhere to your personal values if they ever hope to be featured on your app. I think you might be putting the egotistical cart before the realistic horse in this design sprint.
Thank you, Livy, for joining us today. I really appreciate your wisdom and insights in helping us with the understand phase of the product design process. So great having you.
Yes. The invaluable wisdom of lowering your target age demographic. Got it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I had a really great time, and I'd love to hear more about Scholar, and keep me posted.
Of course, you know I will. If you'd like to learn more about how to build more equity, diversity, and inclusion in your company or product's practices,
completely disregard the advice given in these videos?
Feel free to visit the link in the description below. If you have a question, drop that in the comments.
Well, all right then. I have left a couple of my major questions in your comments section, as you suggested. I'll be curious to see if I get any answers. So, did the understanding phase help me to understand anything about application development regarding diversity, inclusion, or anything else? Well, once again, we have Google developers providing confusing or even contradictory advice on how to integrate their value system into their products. Now, we need to know that diversity is a really important value at Google. But how exactly does that value turn into action? Well, save for hiring or promoting people on the basis of their race, or age, or gender, or orientation, or religion, or whatever. The answer is, apparently, to shift the age range of your target audience using sticky notes. Well, nice work if you can get it, I guess. And also, where is the engineering with this series? There's a complete absence of any technical discussion. All I have seen so far is brainstorming. I mean, lightning talks that come up with nothing more insightful than pondering possible user demographics. I don't know, Google. These engineering everyday equity videos seem to be a lot of show, but no tell. But then, maybe that's the point. As always, thank you for watching.